Hi everyone, it's Dr. Kim Sommerville here, your general practitioner and clinical nutritionist. Today I'm going to be talking about how we can eat to improve our insulin sensitivity. This is going to be a second video in the series. The first video talked about signs and symptoms that you may have if you have insulin resistance. The reason why this is important is because insulin resistance increases inflammation in our bodies, and the more inflammation we have is the more we're at risk for certain diseases. So if this is important to you, I just let you know to continue watching. So the first step is not skipping breakfast. A lot of us are super busy. We have a long commute in the morning, and sometimes breakfast just doesn't seem to be the most convenient thing. Also, some persons usually tell me that their stomach just doesn't do well with eating early. And that usually occurs because after a long period of time of practicing not eating early, then your stomach just doesn't feel the same. But what I would say to those persons is just gradually start eating something small and then getting to a medium-sized plate for breakfast over time. Now, the reason why skipping breakfast is important, or I would say is an issue with insulin sensitivity, is that when you don't have breakfast, you tend to get hungrier throughout the day. The hungrier you are, the more your body is going to want to binge on something that is comfort food. So that's processed foods, sweet things, or just more food than usual. And those things usually increase your blood sugar very rapidly. Once your blood sugar is increased rapidly, your insulin is going to increase rapidly because it's trying to get that sugar into your body's cells. But the more and more insulin you're producing at a very, very high level is the more inflammation that your body is going to also produce. And if that occurs, then we know that, you may get diabetes, you may get other diseases, which is just not what we want. So in order to stop skipping breakfast, I would say the first thing would be to plan ahead. You know that you have probably like an hour, half an hour to get ready in the mornings. Meal prep something from the night before, or purchase snack items or easy items that you can eat. So that can be fruits like an apple or banana. You can put that with nuts as well. You can have boiled eggs. You can boil probably 5 boiled eggs and have 2 this morning, 2 the next, or 1 each day. Anything that works for you, but something easy so that at least you have something in the morning to just keep you until you want to eat, whether that is a few hours later or at lunchtime. But this will definitely improve your insulin resistance. So the next step is increasing foods with soluble fiber. So the school of thought with doing this is that when we're adding foods with fiber, what it does is that it moves the simple carbohydrates or the simple sugars in other foods down the line of the intestines. And the further down the line of intestines it moves those sugars to, is the less likely it is to be absorbed and the less likely for it to have an effect on the insulin. So there's a particular area of the intestines that foods would have an effect on the insulin secretion, right? But if it's going down further, especially to the colon where it won't be absorbed anymore, then the less likely for our insulin to spike. So of course, we're looking to reduce these insulin spikes because we know that the more it spikes is the more resistant we're going to get. So certain foods with soluble fiber, beans. So that's black beans, chickpeas, lentils, other foods like grains. Some of them are oats. It's also best that you soak your oats probably the night before. So if you soak it in the water or soak it in milk, that helps for your body to absorb it even more and produce even more soluble fiber from it. Also, some fruits and vegetables like carrots and apples tend to have soluble fiber that helps our body in terms of how we absorb the sugars. So if you're able to do that in your different meals, that will definitely be one of the helpers of your insulin sensitivity. This one I think goes without saying, but it is to decrease carbohydrates and sweets in your diet. Now, when I say carbohydrates, I'm really talking about those with a high glycemic index. I'm going to put the definition right here. So what that is basically the glycemic index tells us how much sugar will be produced in the body after your body breaks down this particular food, right? The higher it is on the glycemic index scale is the more sugars it will produce when it's getting into your body. Usually carbohydrates with a lot of starch or a lot of fiber tends to be a little bit lower on the scale, but those that pretty much has a lot of sugars and just will absorb pretty quickly will be higher on the scale. So I will put a list of some of the high glycemic index foods right here just for you to get an idea. But the more you cut these out or the more you reduce them in your diet will be better for your insulin sensitivity. Now, I understand that eliminating foods is not usually the most sensible thing to do, but at least reducing it or replacing it with something else will help. If you usually have cake for dessert each evening, rather than having cake or rather than having 2 slices of cake, you'd rather have 1. If you're gonna have 2 Pepsis or a Pepsi and a fruit juice a day, try reducing it to just 1 fruit juice or half the Pepsi, or changing it out for water altogether. These small changes, even though you may not see a large difference in your body quickly, small changes will add up to you improving your health over time. For those of us who can't really reduce our carbohydrates quickly or reduce our sweets, the next best thing to do is to change how we eat these things. So if you're definitely gonna have your sweets or your high glycemic index carbohydrates, it's best to add them or pair them with foods that are high in protein or high in good fats. And definitely when you do that, you want to have them after you have your protein or fats. Reason being is that the protein and the good fats and even those foods that are high in fiber will slow down the breakdown of your sweets and your high glycemic carbohydrates. So let us say that you definitely want to have your ice cream today. Rather than just going out to Devon House or your favorite ice cream spot and having the ice cream midday, no lunch, what you would do is have a well-balanced lunch, and that will be with your protein, your chicken, your beans, your tofu, whatever it may be, with your vegetables and your good fats that can be drizzling on some olive oil or having 2 slices of pear or avocado. And once you have that meal, you can then have your ice cream thereafter. Having the ice cream at that point will slow down the breakdown of these sugars, and it won't spike your insulin as much. Of course, your insulin will go up because there are sugars coming into the body, but it will definitely go up at a much slower rate and not as high either. So that's definitely something that you want to try. Not having any sweets or high glycemic carbohydrates by themselves. Always pair it with a protein or a fat and have it after that type of meal. The last tip is having fruits in moderation. Now, we all know that fruits are great. They have a lot of vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, but they also have a lot of sugars as well. So when these sugars are absorbed, they will spike our insulin, which is what we're trying to avoid. So similar to the previous tip, we want to have them at a time when they're less likely to spike the insulin. We usually know that we should have about 5 servings of fruits a day, and a serving is usually about the size of our palm, so that can be a medium apple, a medium banana, and a handful of, say, grapes, right? When we're having these, we want to not have any more than 5 servings, as I said before, and also pair them with protein and fats, similar to my previous tip. So once we're doing that, we tend to reduce our insulin spike. Of course, fruits are lovely. Some persons have like 5 or 6 mangoes in one sitting, or a large fruit bowl, or even smoothies that have many servings of fruits in them. What I would suggest, especially in a smoothie, is that not going over the 5 serving of fruits, as well as adding in some protein. So adding like some protein powder, or adding some nuts, adding some vegetables as well that have a lot of fiber. So some spinach, some callaloo, kale, whatever it may be. Add it to your fruits so that the sugars won't be increasing as rapidly as they would without them. All right, so I hope these tips are helpful. My next video will be speaking about some lifestyle changes that can increase your insulin sensitivity and of course reduce your insulin resistance. If you'd like some personalized tips or a personal meal plan, just contact me at my email address or my website, and we can see how well we can work together. So I hope you have a wonderful day. This is Simple Summer Naturals. Take care.